What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Gooner channel, a channel 100% dedicated to the Arsenal, who, as we all know, are by far the greatest team the world has ever seen. And it's been a fantastic start to the summer transfer window for Arsenal, probably the best I can ever remember. Getting our business done nice and early for positions we know we needed. A right back and a centre back all in one, defensive midfielder at the highest level, and Kai Havertz, who is being brought in to play at that 8 position where we know Granit Xhaka will be, or is looking like leaving to go to Germany. There have been suggestions that we're holding out for slightly more money, or we're looking to renegotiate that. I don't know how true that is, but certainly most of what we desperately needed seems to have been taken care of with the signings of Havertz, Rice and Timber. And now it looks like we may be able to focus on players out. One of those players who, according to transfer insider Graham Bailey, has very strongly indicated that he'd like to leave is Thomas Partey. Apparently he's not keen to play second fiddle to Declan Rice, and he feels like his time at the club has come to a natural end and he wants to go on. Now, originally, all the talk was of him going to Saudi. There is apparently strong interest in him, but he wanted to stay in Europe, and so Juventus became the hot favourites, even though they were offering considerably less. It now appears that, it now appears that since Adrien Rabiot has done a U-turn and decided to stay at Juventus, that this now means that they're no longer interested in Thomas Partey, for whom they'd offered around 15 to 17 million pounds. Now, Thomas Partey is still available. Thomas Partey is apparently considering his options with Saudi, and it is, of course, possible that another club come in for him. Certainly, that asking price isn't that high. And this kind of represents good business for both sides, because whilst I'm sure Arteta would love to keep him in the squad as backup, he is on just under £200,000 a week. And so being able to clear that would allow us to make the kind of signing that would replace him. And mooted for that in the last few days have been Tchouameni, defensive midfielder, of course, at Real Madrid. Lavia at Southampton, for whom there's been a lot of interest apparently, but he is a young player and not yet that experienced and may not be somebody you'd expect to have a lot of minutes. But there has been talk also of our interest in Caicedo not quite disappearing yet, although I think it's fair to say there are teams in for him that are stronger favourites. And of course, Fofana is a name that has come up recently. So we're clearly still looking around for midfield players. And although there's no concrete offers yet, Lavia, I think of those, has been the strongest. We know that, of course, Kai Havertz has been brought into play at that 8. So the midfield we're expecting to look like Odegaard, Kai Havertz and Declan Rice, which I think is an outstanding one, particularly with inverted fullbacks. And we know that Timber can play that position, or is expected to be able to play that position, similarly to White. And overall, I would quite welcome us to move on Thomas Partey. I always think if a player doesn't want to stay and fight for his position, then he should leave, because a top club expects and demands that players should be able to fight for that position. And along those lines, really pleased to see that Emile Smith-Rowe, very positive interview when they asked him about how he felt about Kai Havertz being brought in. He was very clear. He said absolutely loves when the team gets stronger and he's happy to fight for his place. So that's the kind of attitude we want. And good luck to Emile Smith-Rowe for tomorrow's game. The England under-21s, of course, playing their quarter-final. But another player that we're apparently interested in, and this one would be really exciting, I think. Mesut Ozil described him as a better player than he was at that age, which is high praise indeed. Of course, we all know how great Mesut was. This is Arda Guler, the 18-year-old Fenerbahce attacking midfielder. He's left-footed, great on the ball, strong on the ball, difficult to get the ball off, but a beautiful passer of the ball with the outside of the foot, and somebody who really does get goal involvement. In fact, he's played 4 times for Turkey for the national side and scored a goal, and he's being feted as a superstar of the future, particularly in Turkey. Arsenal, according to Rudy Galletti, an Italian journalist, very seriously looking to bring this player in because he has a £15 million release fee. However, I would inject a note of caution, and that is to say there's becoming a real classico matchup for who gets this young player. Deco, the sporting director for Barcelona, has been sent to talk to his father, and there's apparently been strong and good communication, and they feel confident that they've got an agreement in principle. And Real Madrid have responded by sending Roberto Carlos in a contingent to talk him round. Newcastle are also thought to be interested, but I think we all know that when Real Madrid and Barcelona are duking it out to get a player, it's going to be very hard for him to go anywhere else. Hopefully, Mesut said some good things about Arsenal that might make him interested, and it is going to come down to the player, but my feeling would be, from what I've read, that Barcelona are out ahead in front as favourites to sign him. So apart from that, we are linked with a rather audacious story suggesting that we were putting a proposal together for Kylian Mbappe, I think more for in readiness of a free transfer in 2024. He, of course, has come out and said he's going to stay at Paris Saint-Germain. I can't see it. Except to say that there may not be any teams out there that can actually spend the kind of money that Paris Saint-Germain would need to sell Kylian Mbappe, and perhaps this could go down to a January transfer window or a free transfer window in 2024. And if that's the case, apparently Arsenal are strongly considering making an offer. Who wouldn't want to see Kylian Mbappe in an Arsenal shirt? I'm starting to feel like we have to control our wages outgoing. And one of the reasons for that was, and I don't know how true this is, but it was reported recently that Kai Havertz, the deal to bring Kai Havertz to Arsenal, as well as being our second largest transfer fee paid, we've apparently offered him a contract with £331,000 a week, making him the highest paid player in the club. Now, I think that would be a very unusual decision to make, given that Saka's just signed a contract extension. We know Odegaard is sitting down to do the same. Saliba, Martinelli. I don't know how wise it is to bring a player like Kai Havertz in, earning more even than Gabriel Jesus. So maybe there's not a lot of truth to that, and maybe it's the way that the contract's structured. Maybe that includes bonuses. But that was the quote, that he was on 331,000. And so I think, given that our commercials in football have not been as good as other teams, and now with involvement in Champions League, we're back on track to improve our incomes. But if we are going to be run sustainably, and if we are going to meet FFP, it's important that we don't go around just signing everybody that we want as fans. Now, obviously, I always say it's not my money, and I'd love to see Kylian Mbappe at the club, but he is currently on around 850,000 a week. So that is going to smash a wage bill. And yeah, he'll sell you a lot of shirts, and maybe he is the difference between us winning and not winning the Premier League or Champions League. But I think this is just a story at the moment, but I'll certainly keep you updated if there's any further news on that. And apart from that, I would expect the coming days and weeks of the transfer market now for us, having done our business nice and early, to be about outgoing players. There is a long list of players that are deemed probably surplus to requirements. One of those is Pepe, Nicolas Pepe. Really interesting article where he was interviewed. Of course, he's been on loan at Nice, but there was never an option to buy. So he is coming back to Arsenal to talk about his future. And in those talks, it's unlikely that Pepe will be offered any game time. Now, there are people who would like to see him in the squad for his last year. We might as well give him one more roll of the dice. I don't think Arteta's thinking like that at all at the moment. There have been no interested parties in paying for Pepe. So the most likely thing to happen is that we will buy out his contract and he will leave the club. But what he did say in the article was that he said lots of very positive things about Mikel Arteta and how he'd got on well with him and learnt a lot from him, and he'd improved him a lot. But he also spoke about the frustration of having to wait for game time when Willian was getting so much game time ahead of him. Now, almost every Arsenal fan I know and everyone I've spoken to says we gave Willian far too long, and Pepe is just another voice there. It's one of the things that I worried about with Arteta way back, that he couldn't accept when he'd made a mistake and stuck it out. I think Arteta's changed, but I do think that Pepe perhaps doesn't fit our system and would be... Well, listen, it might be good if we're not going to sign players like Moussa Diaby. It might be good to have a player like Pepe that can come on for Saka, but we now have Havertz as well, who can play in that position. And actually, we're well equipped for forwards. So other players looking to leave or looking to be moved on: Sambi Lokonga, Marquinhos, who I would favour for another loan spell, to be honest, Cedric Suarez, Nuno Tavares. Reports that we're only being offered around 8 million for Nuno Tavares seems a little light. Kieran Tierney now maybe looks like staying, but that's not been made clear at all. Holding, as we said earlier, Thomas Partey, and following Balogun, which is another one where I know that he put a time or one of those hourglass emojis on his Instagram, and there were lots of people saying, "Time for what? Are you coming back to fight for your place?" I know there's also been speculation that Eddie Nketiah may be moved on. One of those two looks like they may be moved on. I will, of course, keep you updated as soon as I hear anything that's more than just speculation. And I would love to hear your thoughts on everything I've discussed so far today. It's a good time to be an Arsenal fan. I think we can all agree that. Would be even better if we got Mbappe, though, wouldn't it? Let me know if there's one player out there that you think would absolutely do it for us. I had a good conversation with someone earlier today about Vlahovic. I'm not convinced, but, I'm prepared to change my mind. Anyway, till I see you again, be lucky and lots of love.